over the next month.
All right, Betsy Klein, thank you so much for that reporting. Joining us now, CNN senior political analyst Ron Brownstein. Ron, always good to see you. Let's talk about Elon Musk for a second. I feel like we talk about him a lot, but just knowing what has happened at the White House, during this cabinet meeting, where we really continue to see this tension between what he's trying to do and what these secretaries are trying to do at their agencies with questions of who's in charge.
Yeah, great reporting by Jonathan Swan and Maggie Haberman. And it's almost as if they are operating, Jessica, I think, on different timeframes. The cabinet officers are the front line people who are going to be held responsible when the rubber meets the road, as the transportation secretary said. It's one thing for you to come in and say, let's fire a bunch of air traffic controllers. But basically, he's saying, I'm the one who's going to have to respond if there's a major plane crash. That I think is what we've talked about this before. Whatever degree of backlash there is at the front end, and there is some, and maybe more than I would have expected in terms of town halls and public opinion polls showing public concerned about kind of the indiscriminate and almost reckless nature of these cuts. There's a great deal more political exposure on the back end when, if you start reducing the federal workforce in the way that they are, when things go wrong, like this measles epidemic in West Texas, people are going to be asking questions. And I think the resistance of the cabinet officers reflects that they are the ones on the front lines responsible for those results when those questions are asked.
Well, and it is interesting because then we saw Trump posting that these cuts need to be made with a scalpel, not a hatchet, which was interesting language to hear from him. Yeah. But you talk about the kind of the blowback and who will face that. And I think you and I have talked about this. It won't be President Trump is not eligible for another term. Elon Musk not running. It is, to your point, people maybe who have a future in the Republican Party, maybe some of these cabinet secretaries, and the Republicans who will be running in 2026 and beyond.
Right. So certainly, 2026 is the front lines of response to everything about Trump. And it is worth noting that the last 5 times a president went into a midterm election with unified control of government, which Republicans have now, voters have revoked it in that midterm. No president has defended unified control of government through a midterm since Jimmy Carter in 1978. And as I wrote on CNN.com a couple of weeks ago, that's the longest such streak in American history. We've never had 5 consecutive times where a party lost control in the midterm. And so you see Republicans kind of feeling under the gun to get everything that they want to get done in these 2 years, to basically leverage a 49% win in the popular vote into a mandate to fundamentally reshape the federal government at home and to reconfigure America's relations with the world. But the risk of all of that is that, they are activating a lot of unease in parts of the electorate. And it is the members of Congress who are going to have to go on the front line and defend that. And by the way, I still view all of these cuts in the federal government as the warm up for the real fight that is coming later this year over the federal budget, and in particular, a Republican reconciliation budget plan that is going to attempt to extend the Trump tax cuts, which mostly benefit people at the top, and fund that largely by cutting programs that benefit the middle class and the working class, especially Medicaid and enhanced healthcare subsidies.
Yeah, and so there's questions around how that potentially might go over with voters. And then you throw in tariffs, which Trump has said that those could mean, in his words, a little disturbance. He said he's okay with that. We've heard from other cabinet officials and allies who've said, it's just the beginning. I wouldn't worry about that for the short term. But listen, Americans voted Trump in to bring the cost of living down. Even the short term, I think the question is, will they be patient with him if the prices continue to stay high? What do you think?
No, I think he's already paying a price. I think there are 2 big points about the tariffs. I think first, that in many ways they are a symbol of Trump's conception of the presidency in this sense. The constant hairpin turns, the perpetual instability, I think, is a feature, not a bug. It makes it very hard for businesses to plan, makes it very hard for anybody to plan, and markets don't like that. But you know who the constant instability is good for is Trump. It forces everyone, whether it's domestic industries looking for carve-outs or other countries, to constantly stay on his good side. It's a way for him to, the unpredictability is a way for him to increase leverage over everyone else in the political system. And in some ways, the symbol of the whole administration, I think, was this decision when they dropped the case against Eric Adams, but they left open, you know, the idea that they could bring it back at any point, basically, if he didn't do what they want. That, I think, is what we are seeing on tariffs and so many other fronts. But to your other question, look, Trump's economic approval rating in recent polling, particularly Gallup, is below his overall approval rating. And you might say, so what? That never happened during his entire first term. During his entire first term, the economy was kind of a tailwind for him, faith in his economic management. And he is facing more doubts about the economy, I think, than he did at any point except the height of COVID in his first term. And you are also seeing in polling, like the CNN poll, that a majority of Americans, especially